Ang banyuhay ay isang proseso na sumasalamin ng pagbabago sa aksyon o pananaw. Halimbawa ay kung nagpapalit ng pinuno ang pamahalaan o kaya ay binabago ang makalumang paniniwala o ideolohiya. Sa isang bansang tulad ng Pilipinas, kung saan madalas na iniisip na walang pagbabago sa kalakaran sa politika, layunin ng banyuhay na magbukas ng diskurso sa mga pinakamaiinit na isyong pambansa. Ang programang ito ay nakatuon sa pagbibigay ng mga sariwa at makabuluhang pananaw na maaaring magbunsod ng pagbabago sa ating kamalayang sosyo-politikal. Magandang araw sa lahat ng mga nakatunin ngayon dito sa DZUP. Welcome to the Banyuhay Podcast Series. I am your host, Dennis Kilala from the Department of Political Science, and welcome to Banyuhay. Ang podcast na ito ay inisyatibo ng UP Center for Integrative and Development Studies, ang research think tank ng University of the Philippines. Ang UP-CIDS ay ang policy research unit ng UP System. Ito ay tinatag para suportahan ang iba't ibang klase ng pananaliksik at pag-uusap tungkol sa mga isyong may kinalaman sa pag-unlad ng bansa at pamamahala nito. Welcome muli sa Banyuhay. Ngayon, tatalakayin natin ang isang kritikal na issue na nakakaapekto sa mga halalan sa buong mundo, ang disinformation. Susuriin natin ang mga mekanismong ginagamit, ang papel ng mga umuusbong na teknolohiya tulad ng AI at ang mga pagsisikap sa fact-checking noong 2025 Philippine elections. Kasama natin upang magbigay linaw sa komplikadong paksang ito, si Dr. Maria Diosa Labiste. Siya ay dekana ng Kolehiyo ng Media at Komunikasyon ng Universidad ng Pilipinas, Diliman. Si Dr. Labiste ay Associate Professor sa Department of Journalism. Taglay niya ang PhD mula sa University of Birmingham, MA sa Journalism mula sa Ateneo de Manila, at BA Mass Communication mula sa Silliman University. Nakatuon ang kanyang mga pananaliksik, publikasyon at mga gawain sa journalism studies, political communication, disinformation, folklore at periodismo, komunikasyon sa panahon ng sakuna, at kalidad ng science journalism. Nakatanggap siya ng mga parangal tulad ng Marshall McLuhan Award at Jaime V. Ongpin Award for Excellence in Journalism. Kinikilala din siya sa kanyang aktibong partisipasyon sa mga pampublikong talakayan ukol sa martial law at sa pag-endorso sa kanya ng mga grupo na mag-aaral dahil sa kanyang pro-people stances. Welcome po sa Banyuhay din Labiste.
Maraming salamat, Dennis, sa invitasyon na makapanayam kayo ngayong hapon. At thank you for having me here.
Sa inyo pong pag-obserba sa nakaraang halalan, ano po ang pangunahing taktika at naratibo ng disinformation? Sino o ano po ang mga lumitaw na pangunahing target ng disinformation at tagapagpakalat nito?
Okay. Siguro magpapakilala muna ako sa iyo. Isa ako sa mga coordinators ng Check.ph. Isa itong fact-checking projects para sa eleksyon sa Pilipinas. So, ng 2025 election na to, ikang pangatlong run na namin. In 2019 election, nagsimula kami as a fact-checking coalition. In 2022 elections, andun din kami. Ang mga partners namin ay galing sa media, sa mga universidad or academia. And then may civil society organization. So sa mga funding naman, galing ito sa mga universidad like UP, sa embassies, and also social media platforms like Google, tsaka Meta. Yung siguro sabihin ko lang ngayon na yung sasabihin ko dito I do not reflect the views of my colleagues tsaka Czech partners. Sa 2025 election, may mga 400 fact checks na nabuo ang Check.ph na may 24 partners. And nakikita namin na these fact checks were overwhelmingly rated false. Ibig sabihin, nagka-contradict sila sa available facts. Pero nakakabahala kasi 10% ng mga fact checks na ito ay rated altered. Ibig sabihin, yung mga teksto, yung mga imahe, yung mga sounds or audio and video were edited or pinag-iba or modified or tweaked para mag-mislead o mag-deceive ng mga nagbabasa or audience. Yung alteration or modification is accomplished through the use of digital tools, including artificial intelligence. Yung mga fact checks nakikita namin, mas marami yung fact checks about Duterte and Marcos. Siyempre, naalala natin, may mga critical incidents na nangyari bago mag-eleksyon at noong unang mga linggo ng eleksyon. So, alam natin yung Duterte at Marcos, ito yung mga ruling families, mga former allies sila na nagbangayan, nag-away sila. And then, yung mga fact checks na nagpapakita ng tension between them is yung Sara impeachment, nung sinabi ng isang claim na wala na yung impeachment. Tapos yung isa pang claim na wala ng ICC jurisdiction sa Pilipinas. At saka yung sinabi na nung inaresto si Duterte, sinuportahan ni Trump yung mga nagsasabi na dapat hindi inaresto si Duterte. In other words, Trump was supporting the former President Rodrigo Duterte. Meron ding mga paglalait sa kay President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na hospitalized daw siya dahil sa isang kidney problem. Pati nadamay din yung si First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos na na-detain doon sa US. Ibig sabihin, yung mga fact checks na lumilitaw noon ay nung unang mga linggo ng campaign period ay about yung bangayan or yung tension happening between these two political families. Pero ang nakikita namin nung start ng election season, ito din yung panahon na na-spotlight yung issue ng political dynasties, which is of course the norm in our country's politics. Yung Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, nagpalabas siya ng study na 80% ng district seats sa House of Representatives ay hinahawakan ng mga political dynasties. And of the number of political clans, meron tinatawag silang obese or ano ba yung translation ng obese sa Tagalog? Or too fat, masyadong mataba na hindi siya flattering na term, right? But yung pag sinabi natin obese or na hindi flattering, ibig sabihin nun, they are too entrenched in power. At malaki silang political clans that there are several members of the clans or the families that are part of the House of Representatives or local positions or even the Senate. So, however, we also notice as a result of the release of the studies on political clans from the social media reactions, na-detect din namin yung anti-dynasty sentiments as shown by the many social media posts and interactions that were criticizing the proliferation of political dynasties. And then may mga fact checks din kami sa Check.ph na naglalarawan ng issue ng political dynasties during election. Nakikita ito sa mga political surveys na dinidebunk at saka yung mga mukha ng mga membro ng political dynasties na hindi rin flattering yung mga claims and posts. So, isa sa mga trends na nakikita namin is the proliferation of fact checks na tinatawag nating red tagging fact checks. Kasi, when the government created the National Task Force to End Local Communists or NTF-ELCAC, ito yung government body na makes no distinction between those who participate in armed struggle and those who held progressive views, including human rights, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, and even yung who read critical books. One of the favorite pastimes of this anti-communist body supporters is to label some candidates and their party list organization as communist and terrorists. At nung malapit ng mag-eleksyon, especially during the eve of the elections, maraming fact checks kami na lumalabas na nagsasabi na yung mga groups that are progressive or identified with Makabayan Black are actually disqualified from running in the elections. Or that was the eve of the elections. And marami kaming fact checks na tinatawag nating red tagging fact checks or nagre-reflect sila ng mga anti-communist witch hunting. So may mga kandidato na dinilabel na communist or terrorist. At may mga organisasyon na nililink sila sa armed groups. And this happened on the eve of the elections. So meron ding mga fact checks, or one of the trends that we observe is the foreign interference, or tinatawag nating foreign information manipulation interference, na nakikita namin through the digital forensics ng mga partners ng Check.ph. Ito yung mga emergence of fact checks that are attributed to pro-China social media accounts that were targeting voters. And some of them were against President Ferdinand Marcos, but they tend to favor Vice President Sara Duterte. And moreover, these fact checks point to the presence of media digital platforms. At isa sa mga ginagawa nila ay nag-spin sila ng information to criticize the administration, and also to deliver fact checks that got to do with the West Philippine Sea, West China Sea na conflict. Halimbawa, isang fact check nagsabi yung Palawan Island daw sa Western Philippines is part of China. And then meron pa isa nakakatawa kasi si Vice President Sara Duterte, nagsasalita siya about his father's arrest but in fluent Mandarin. In other words, there's this alteration sa voice na suddenly naging fluent na siya sa Mandarin. Ito yung nakakabahala kasi what we're seeing now is that the artificial intelligence is increasingly being used to manipulate information during election. Nakakabahala yun kasi marami ng AI tools ang nag-circulate, and they have no clear ethical or political commitments as to the democratic participation of citizens during elections. In other words, nag-pollute lang sila ng information ecosystem natin with their invasive products, and this AI algorithms are being manipulated by groups to confuse voters and public at large. Yung Commission of Elections naman, na-acknowledge naman siya ng use of AI as a tool to manipulate voters, and in fact, nag-demand sila na i-disclose ng mga social media accounts or users if they use AI, but yung guidelines nila were largely ignored. So, ito na kasi nakakabahala. Kung may mangyari, yung i-blame natin humans or institutions like COMELEC sa nangyari sa election, but what about the tech companies and their AI softwares? Hindi ba natin sila gawing accountable sa harm na ginawa nila, confusion na na-create nila? In other words, should we also subject them to political judgment?
Thank you po doon, Dean, no? Napansin ko po doon sa mga na-fact check ng Check.ph. Karamihan po doon, yun nga, between Marcoses and the Dutertes. Pero yung yung naging election natin is in the Senate. Ito po ba ang ginawa iniugnay yung ating mga senador doon sa kung anong kampo sila, Duterte ba o Marcos? Yun po ba yung naging dahilan at hindi dahil sa nakafocus sila doon sa mga individual senators? Kasi mukhang yung mga party list groups po, mukhang may mga na-fact check din kayo doon kasi mga na-red tag na groups po doon. Pero pagdating po sa mga senador natin, meron din po bang trend, no, na kinakailangan i-fact check among our senatorial candidates?
I think isa sa mga na-miss ng fact checkers because the fact checks appear to have focused on these two warring groups, yung Duterte at Marcos. and also the local candidates a few days before the elections, konti lang nag-fact check ng senators or even the Congress men or representatives. Kasi of course, konti lang talaga yung fact checkers. And most of the disinformation, I think, were targeting yung mga voters doon na naka-align sa dalawang kampo. Kasi, ang nakikita ko kasi, na-observe ko din, yung it appears that the fact checks are not really there to mislead people, but they're more there or they're more created to sustain or mobilize partisanship. Ibig sabihin, yung fact checks are identity-forming narratives na, dito kayo, pag ganito kang grupo, dito, ito yung mga pakikinggan nyo at ito yung i-download nyo na information or ito yung mga post na i-follow nyo. And alam naman siguro ng mga tao na they are fed with false, ridiculous, and probably inaccurate information. But these things do not really matter to them kasi ito na yung grupo nila eh. Sabi ko nga, ito yung mga information na hinahanap nila kasi they're part of that group. So it's not so much that they really subscribe or they really believe those claims. It's just that is a way to keep them intact as a partisan group. So, kaya nga, how do you answer yung question na, bakit kinaniwala sa fact check na mga nagsabi na si Pope Francis o si Elon Musk or yung mga si Trump or si Trump or yung mga movie actors ay sumusuporta kay Duterte or kinokondem yung arrest niya by the ICC. So, yung mga partisan networks kasi ay ito sila sarado. And then, there are networks that would like to hear the same thing, lies or not, and they find satisfaction in being part of this network. So, nakikita namin na yung false information appears to be a binding mechanism to ensure that the followers of this partisan group do not leave the group. So, yun yung mahalaga sa kanya, yung in-group feeling rather than whether the information is true or not. Nakakabahala yun eh. Kasi it appears that they tolerate the flood or the tsunami of information just to keep the group intact and to ensure that they would deliver votes or would deliver support to certain candidates that they prefer based on the narratives that are circulating and based on the belief that this is the group that they should vote, regardless of whether this politicians or this leaders subscribe to truth or would dish out misinformation in order to stay in power.
Gaano kaepektibo ang mga inisyatiba sa fact-checking sa pagkontra sa disinformation sa panahon ng kampanya at halalan? May papel po ba ang AI? Ano ang mas naging pangunahing limitasyon nito?
Okay, it's really hard to tell whether a fact check would deliver a vote. There's no way of finding out kasi kung naka-fact check ka and you verify information, it's not just about this particular information but you're looking at the whole narrative. Yung kasi mahirap kasi na sinabi na ito lang yung information na fact-checkable yung pagtuunan mo ng pansin. Kasi yung isang information is part of a whole narrative. At yung narrative kasi na may powerful pull siya sa mga tao. May, sabi natin, may emotions na nasama doon. And may mga personal ties na at stake sa isang narrative. Halimbawa, yung statement na nagsabi na si Duterte ay kinidnap, dinala sa ICC sa the Netherlands, is part of the bigger narrative that Duterte's drug war, as an example of state violence against citizens, is justified. May larger meanings yung isang narrative, at these are shared by followers or by those who subscribe to that narrative. So, i-fact check mo ay isang punto lang sa doong narrative at hindi ang buong narrative, which is, it's a mix of insights, facts, and opinions. Kasi yung fact checkers, hindi nila pina-fact check yung opinions and sometimes insights. Pina-fact check lang nila yung anything which could be verified data man yun or information na sinasabi natin fact checkable, then they can be verified by evidence na nakukuha nila as data or as experts' opinion or verifiable information like in a research. Mahirap kasing mag-fact check ng narrative kasi it involves a series of belief statements, and you can only fact check a portion of that. But if people believe in a narrative, it's really hard to make them debunk that particular narrative. In other words, ang ibig ko sabihin dito ay mahirap mag-fact check because you don't know what's behind the person's intention or bakit siya naniniwala sa isang claim or sa isang statement na palagay mo ay mag-Google naman niya, ma-research niya, and yet this person still believes in this particular statement or claim. Kasi yung disinformation is not just about disinformation per se. Kasi disinformation ay nakaugat sa mas malalim na structural lies or structural inequalities na pag binangga mo, hindi mo alam kung saan nanggagaling. Well, you can debunk this particular information. You don't know what is the reason or what are the reasons why this person believes in this particular narrative. The fact checks are there for the public to know or to see or to read when they need it, which makes the work of fact checking still relevant in this age of disinformation and AI. However, we can only mitigate the spread ng disinformation. Hindi namin as fact checkers talagang ma-end or sabi na eliminate yung disinformation, misinformation, or lies or fake news kasi parang parte siya ng information ecosystem natin na hindi siya matanggal whether it's election season or not. And it morph into scams, it morph into ridiculous beliefs, it morph into anything which is funny and shareable. But then parte siya ng information ecosystem, and of course mas mahirap siya pag election because of the nature of the exercise na you need information to make informed choices. If you don't possess those kinds of information to help you make good choices for the election, then I think that's where the disinformation would create yung sinasabi nating harm on citizens' participation or in the larger scale democracy in this country.
Ma'am, nabanggit niyo po kanina na sa disinformation, nagagamit po nila yung AI. I
Yeah.
was wondering po doon po sa pagpa-fact check ninyo, nagagamit niyo din po ba yung AI para ma-counter yung disinformation?
Yung nakita namin, yung mga AI-generated na disinformation ay low fakes. In other words, they can easily be detected kasi yung sabi ko nga, we've been fact-checking since 2019 election. So experts na yung mga fact-checkers. They're really crack fact-checkers, and they were also trained to detect AI or altered information. So madali siyang ma-detect. Madali silang ma-debunk. However, increasingly, we are also seeing na meron ding mga disinformation or mga altered images na deepfakes with the use of sounds, with the use of videos, and then they're beginning to be used these elections, although majority pa rin ng altered na images or sounds or text and videos are low fakes. They can easily be detected. So in other words, AI are tools that are being used by malign actors or disinformation or fake news spreaders this election. And nakakabahala that the more they use it, the better they become and in using it. And we have the 2028 elections in 3 years. And what happened in the 2028 election is something that if we speculate about it this early, nakakabahala. And it's going to, I think, cause us a lot of worry. And I think it should be a public concern. Ang mangyari sa 2028 election, given the preponderance or the proliferation of AI tools or the use of AI tools, is something that we should be worried about, and the public should also be worried about.
Sa loob ng demokratikong konteksto ng halalan sa Pilipinas, ano ang mga mahalagang etikal na konsiderasyon at potensyal na panganib na nauugnay sa paggamit ng AI para sa fact-checking at content moderation?
Okay, kasi in the previous elections, yung demand for accountability was targeting the social media companies na hindi nyo minomoderate yung content nyo, kaya maraming disinformation. That was in the 2022 and 2019 election. This 2025 election, the demand for accountability ay na-expand na or has expanded to include AI tools. Kasi yung mga AI tools have no clear ethical and democratic commitments. And then, sabi ko nga, ginagamit sila ng mga political actors to pollute the information ecosystem. And napaka-invasive ng mga produkto nila. And they are being manipulated by some groups to confuse the voters and to deceive the public at large. Pero, may mga guidelines na yung COMELEC na dapat i-declare mo or maging transparent ka na gumamit ka ng AI, but these guidelines were largely ignored by some groups or some politicians who use this AI to deceive voters or to manipulate information. So, how do we make the tech companies and AI softwares accountable? I think kailangan natin pag-isipan to kasi yung may mga harm siya or may mga masasamang consequences siya sa ating information ecosystem, and also the access of the public to information, if this information manipulated, would have effects on the way they make decisions on crucial periods of the country's history, like election, or when they make decisions on matters that got to do with the public interest. AI is something like a new tool. Yung sinasabi kasi ng tech companies, they are on the ethical side of history sa kanilang AI because careful daw sila. Yung experience naman natin, this 2025 election, nakikita natin yung AI has fallen to the dark side of the force, so to speak. In other words, hindi natin na bantayan yung consequences niya na negative pala. So, yung Check.ph came up with analysis at sinulat ito ng aming colleague si Mr. Pipo Gonzalez and si Professor Yvonne Chua. Pinapakita nila yung mga videos and audio na minamanipulate ng AI. Nagiging growing concern siya as a disinformation tactic nitong 2025 elections. Sinabi ko nga, marami sa kanila ay low fakes and they can easily be detected because shallow fakes sila, but they spread easily and they should be a matter of public concerns. We don't know what will happen in 2028 elections kasi by which time I think mas develop na yung mga AI tools and AI algorithms. We can only speculate that more deepfakes or shallow fakes will be created to influence votes, and politicians will be using them for their own advantage during the campaigns. At nakakabahala na hindi pa natin sila subject to rules, guidelines, or political judgment. I think after experience the 2025 elections where AI was used by many groups, dapat mag-create tayo ng citizen body to assess and also to see how should we subject those who use AI, whether they're groups or individuals, to public accountability. In other words, pag ginamit mo yan, dapat you should be aware of its consequences and you should be guided by the ethics and bearing in mind that what you're doing has consequences on the political life of the country.
Salamat po doon.
Ano pong mga paraan o sistematikong pagbabago mula sa gobyerno, tech platforms, media, akademya at civil society ang mahalaga para makabuo ng mas matatag na depensa laban sa disinformation sa mga susunod na halalan?
This early we should be talking about the impact of AI on information ecosystem during elections. I think the members of the fact-checking community, the universities or civil society organizations have a lot to say kasi na-experience nila ngayong election season as fact-checkers yung negative consequences or negative effects ng AI dun sa information ecosystem. They should take a lead in bringing this discussion to the legislators' attention and also to the public's attention. Kasi pag nakita mo na yung negative effects niya, hindi ka dapat manahimik. You should bring it up, make it a public discussion, dialogue with those who also feel the same, and come up with a mechanism or a body or a group that should take a lead or should advocate for a judicious and ethical use of AI during elections.
Kailangan ba natin ng mga bagong batas o makabuluhang reforma sa patakaran upang epektibong labanan ng disinformation sa halalan? Kinakailangan bang i-regulate ang paggamit ng AI sa mga kampanya o sapat na bang iakma ang mga kasalukuyang polisiya?
I'm not a legislator, but I think it's in their hands to see what happened in this 2025 election. I can only speak as a fact checker. I'm part of the fact checking coalition. To continue with the fact checking projects and to continue with fact checking after the elections and to encourage people to do their own verification. Kasi nakikita natin yung fact-checking has been democratized. It's can easily be duplicated or replicated by the public. Yung ginagawa ng fact-checkers, it's a technology that can easily be downloaded, that can easily be shared, or can easily be used by the public. Hindi naman siya rocket science, so to speak. Ibig sabihin, we can train people to be watchful, to be vigilant, and to learn how to fact check and learn how to debunk fake information, even those using AI. So I think we can only be successful in eliminating itong negative effects of AI if lahat tayo ay sama-samang fact check and be vigilant about the spread of disinformation in this country. What I'm saying is that make this a people's movement, not to depend so much on the rules or the laws, because I think it will take some time before the laws could be passed, but to work in the communities and to work with groups and in schools or in workplaces. I still believe that fact-checking should be a community effort and also should be a people's movement that anyone possessed with access to information or the internet or can do digital fact-checking, or they can also have group discussions in their communities. Kasi may mga grupo kami ng mga NGO fact-checkers or advocacy fact-checkers na dinadala din na yung fact-checks nila sa community. Hindi nila ira lang or pinapa-circulate sa social media because digital divide is still real in this country. Hindi lahat ng tao may access sa internet. Because mahal nga yung data at saka hindi lahat ng tao ay maka-afford ng internet. So what they do is to bring the fact checks to the communities at dinidiscuss nila at ini-engage nila yung kanilang constituencies. I think that is the future of fact-checking. Fact-checking on social media can only do so much, but if we bring the issue of fake news disinformation to the community and make people understand the harm it could do and equip with the skills and knowledge to do the fact-checking themselves, I think that's the future of fact-checking, when citizens themselves decide that they have enough of fake news and they have the knowledge or the cognitive resources to fact-check. And I think sila mismo willing to have that advocacy. I think that's the time when we can fight or we can eliminate disinformation fully.
Ding, ano po ang mensahe ninyo sa ating mga tagapakinig, sa ating mga mamamayan, lalong-lalo na po parating na ang eleksyon sa 2028?
Maybe they say it's too early to think about 2028 kasi kakatapos ng election. But disinformation, nandito pa rin sa ating harap at hindi din natutulog yung mga malign actors o mga taong nagpapalaganap ng disinformasyon. So we always have to be vigilant because disinformation knows no season or knows no time. At saka if we are prepared to deal with this issue na nagiging political crisis na to some extent and to see where this false information, false narratives, disinformation are coming from, siguro ito yung time na masabi natin na dahan-dahan natin supuin ang disinformasyon. Kasi we want a society where there's no deception, there's no manipulation of information. And then we only want information that are relevant to us and accurate and information that are useful and walang deception. In other words, if we think of this information, we have to think about what kind of society we should have that circulate information that we really need to become informed and to become better citizens. I think when we dream of a society that we want, we should start working towards it, towards its realization. And one of those things that we have to deal with is the kinds of information that we should have and the kinds of information that circulate in that society. Only then we can say that, if we have this kind of information, maybe we are in a better community, a better country. That's the best way of saying it. You deserve a country or deserve a community that has authentic information or accurate information, relevant information for the needs of its citizens.
Maraming salamat po, Dean Labiste, para sa inyong mga mahalagang pananaw ukol sa disinformation at AI tuwing halalan. Mas lalo nating naintindihan na maraming anggulo ang disinformation at AI, lalo na kung gagamitin ito sa halalan. Sa ating mga tagapakinig, nawa po'y makatulong ang mga pananaw na ito sa pag-iisip at pagpili natin para sa halalan sa 2028. Dito na po nagtatapos ang ating episode. Ako po si Dennis Kilala. Maaari lamang bisitahin ang website ng CIDS sa cids.up.edu.ph o ang aming official Facebook page sa facebook.com/UPCIDS. Maraming salamat at magandang araw po.